In this video, we will be setting up your 2-point perspective space on your drawing pad so that you can create your 2-point perspective room for the project. Before I actually go to the drawing pad, I'm just going to give you a few fundamentals so that you'll have an idea of what's going on when we actually go through the space construction. So let's assume that we're looking at the top view of the scene. Okay, for the top view of the scene, and we're going to be creating a perfect cube in 2-point perspective. So I'm just going to write it here, a perfect cube in a 2-point perspective. So because this is a top view and we're doing 2-point perspective, you know that the view, if a person is standing here and looking in this direction, from the top view, you know that the cube or the perfect cube would be a diamond. And the corner is facing the viewer because we are in 2-point perspective. So the position of the viewer is what we call the station point, or SP, and the point where the object begins. I'm just going to draw a line across here. This is called the ground line. So again, where the viewer is called the station point, looking towards the corner of our perfect cube from the top view. The imaginary line that runs across where that object starts is called the ground line. Now, because this is 90 degrees, we're now going to start projecting lines towards our horizon line in 90 degrees as well. So I'm going to set up my horizon line around here. So this is in the infinite distance, our horizon line. And because we are working with a 90-degree angle, from the station point, we will set up 90 degrees as well. And this is going to be our left vanishing point, and this is going to be our right vanishing point. I'm now going to draw a line down the middle so that we divide this top of the cube into two parts. So because this is 90 degrees, this is 45 now, and this is 45. Because they're the same, we know that this distance is the same as this distance. And by geometry rules, this distance over here is also the same as this and this. So that's these three, 1, 2, and 3, they're of the same length. So when we construct our perfect cube in 2-point perspective, these lines actually have to converge to the right vanishing point, and these have to converge to the left vanishing point. The last concept that I need to point out is this thing called the measuring point, or MP. So the measuring point is also important for us later on. The measuring point sits along the horizon line, and for you to find out the position of that, we will take the distance. So if this is your right triangle, this is going to be the hypotenuse of that triangle, and this is going to be the same length as this. What's going to happen is you're going to take this distance and pivot it towards the horizon line. So what that means is I'm going to take this distance And then from the right vanishing point, I'm going to slide that towards the horizon line, and wherever that hits, that's going to be my measuring point 1. And then from the other side, this hypotenuse of this right triangle, I'm going to slide it towards the horizon line, and it's going to be my measuring point 2. So this is what we're going to be setting up in our 2-point perspective space. And again, for the sake of demonstration, we are going to create floor tiles where you're going to be setting up or building your room. I am going to be creating a 4x4 area because that is the original instructions. I know that some of you have created bigger rooms, bigger than 4x4, but for now, I'm going to set up a 4x4, and then I'm going to tell you how you can expand that into more tiles. But I should warn you that the more tiles you add, the more challenging it will be to build that room. So if you find it a challenge, then we recommend that you redesign your room to accommodate or to fit into a 4x4 unit space. So with that, let's go to our drawing pad. So here I have my drawing pad, and the first thing that I want to mention is my drawing pad is actually smaller than what you might have. The measurements of my drawing pad are 9.5 inches by around 13.5 inches, smaller than your 11 by 17 or A3 or A3 plus drawing pad. So most probably the measurements that you're going to be using for your drawing pad will be bigger because you have a bigger pad. So we'll maximize the space that you have in your drawing pad. The first thing that you have to do is to create a horizon line. That's the first thing we're going to do. And to make this optimal for us, I'm going to find the center of the sheet, and then I'm going to raise that measurement a bit and create that horizontal or that horizon line across here. So in this case, I'm just going to measure, I'm neatly hitting 24 centimeters. So 1/2 of 24 is 12. And then maybe I'm going to raise that by a bit by 1.5 centimeters. So again, in your case, you might have a taller canvas to work with, so your measurement might be more. But the idea is find the middle area and then go up a bit so that you'll have that right side reference. And then I'm going to do 24 centimeters here on the right side, and then go for the middle, which is 12, go up by 1.5 centimeters, and then I'm going to build my horizon line. So that's my horizon line right here. The next thing that you're going to do is to establish how long your horizon line is going to be. So you'd want this to be divisible by 2. I've measured this earlier, and I've decided that my horizon line will be 33 centimeters long. So I'm going to set that up. Here I have my left vanishing point. And on the other side, I'm going to add 3 centimeters to reach 33. Again, your horizon line might be longer because you have a longer drawing pad. And this is my right vanishing point. Because my length is 33 centimeters, the center will be divided by 2. That's 16.5 centimeters. I'm now going to indicate that. So this is now the center point. So far we have our left vanishing point, our right vanishing point, our horizon line and our center point right here. I'm going to be drawing a center line and the ground line, but given that this line and this line and this line have to be the same, I won't be able to do that in my diagram because 16.5 centimeters okay, I missed that. 16.5 is actually here. 16.5 centimeters, if I do that vertically, that's gonna go beyond my drawing pad. So I'm not gonna be bothered by that as long as we're aware that the station point is down there. And we will be using that measurement later on. So I'm just gonna draw that center line going down. And here you're going to have to do your best to make sure it is as vertical as you can. So we have that. The next thing we're going to do is to create this ground line. So the ground line, I'm just going to have a little bit of a margin over here at the bottom, maybe 3 centimeters or 2.5 centimeters. Let's go for, I'm going to go for 2.5, as well as the other side, 2.5, and I'll be drawing that ground line over here. So now that we have our ground line, let's find out where this is going to be. So remember, this measurement, we pivot that from the right vanishing point going to our horizon line. So whatever length this is has to be the length from the right vanishing point to where that MP1 will be. And because this is the same as this in our diagram, then it's going to be the same measurement from here to MP2. In order to find this out, we're going to have to go back to trigonometry. So if you look at this, this is a right triangle where you have a right angle right there. This is A, this side is B, and this is C. This is what we're looking for. Pythagorean theorem is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So we now have to calculate for C. So that's why the measurement of this is important, because this is the same as this. So we need that measurement to find out the value of C. Since my segment A is 16.5 centimeters, that's going to be 16.5 squared plus 16.5 squared equals C squared. So I've done those calculations and I found out that my C is 23.3 centimeters. And now I'm going to measure 23.3 from here to get that distance to MP2, and from the right vanishing point over to here to get measuring point number 1. So from the left vanishing point, I'm going to be measuring 23.3 centimeters, and from the other side, the right vanishing point, I'm going to be measuring 23.3 centimeters. This is MP1 and MP2. So now that we have everything set up, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create the tiles. So this is going to be like what the view of the tiles will look like, and they have to connect to the left vanishing point as well as the right vanishing point, and they're going to start from the ground line. So I'm just going to extend some projection lines to the left and right vanishing point, and to do that I'm going to get my ruler and we'll just connect this to the left, and we'll connect this to the right. So once I have that, I'm going to focus first on this tile right here. So I will be building a 4x4. I'm going to start by establishing this one. And you'll know that because this is divided symmetrically in the middle, this little triangle will be the same as this triangle over here. So let's say that I want my tile to just be maybe this big. Okay, so I'm now going to use that as my reference to go. This is what my tile in front will look like. It's the left, and that's the right. So they have to be the same, and you'll know they're the same if I'm going to run a horizontal line. Then you're supposed to have a perfect cross right there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the height of this cube. So this is the floor tile. I'm now going to find the height of this cube. In order to find the height of the cube, you're going to have to take your measuring point, connect it to this corner, and bring it down to the ground line. So I'm going to do that. Measuring point to the corner, and we're just going to mark the ground line. I don't have to extend a full line. And then the next thing we'll do is measure that. So it says here 8 centimeters. So if it's 8 centimeters, I'm going to now measure from the ground line going up, and it's 8 centimeters right there. That's going to be my 1 unit height for our perfect cube. So when I draw this cube, you'll notice that it's not really so perfect, but again, that kind of distortion is something we shouldn't fix per se in perspective drawing, because that's how basically things are. So this is going to be what our perfect cube, and we have those corners over here. I'm going to bring that. You can start from the center there and then extend it there. So this is what now our perfect cube in perspective looks like. Okay, so for now I'm just going to bring a lines for that height to the left and right. So this is 1 unit, this is going to be 1 unit. When I extend this height to the left vanishing point, that's going to be our consistent height. That's a 1 unit height. Same thing with this one. This is going to be 1 unit height. Just going to temporarily erase these so that they don't really get in the way. I'm just going to lightly bring that out so that we can focus now on making those tiles in the middle. So I'm now going to extend, because we're building our floor tiles, I'm going to be extending this further there, and we'll extend this further here. So what I want to do is to add 3 more tiles in this direction and 3 more tiles in this direction. So we're now going to go back to that lesson on sectioning. How now do we use this to build equally spaced tiles? So the first thing we're going to do, just to recall that, if you have a, let's say, a post right there, and you have a second post, if you want to place the third post equal to this, the first thing you'll do is establish that height, X that out to find the center or the middle horizontal line. Then from this corner, you bring it down, and whatever that point is, that's now the position of your next post, and that's the same distance as this. So we're going to do that. Right now, we just have that X. We're going to run a line through that using our vanishing point. And again, you have to do this very lightly so you don't have a lot of lines going around. So I have now my horizontal line going here. I'll now connect this corner with that center. And now I have that. So I now have the next one. I'll now project this to the other side, to our left vanishing point, there. And since we've run that line in the middle, you'll see that our center line just goes really in half across these center tiles. We can now use this point that runs through that center line as the basis for this next set of tiles. There. We can now repeat that process towards the next. So this is the second tile. We can now connect this to from here through that center point over to here. We have that point. We can now connect that to our left vanishing point. And now we have that intersection there. We can use that to build the next line. So now we have a 3 by 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We'll do one more. So this is the tile we're working with. Let's extend that. To there. Then we'll use the left vanishing point. Project that. We have that point at the center line. Use that to bring it to the other side. Now we have our 4 by 4. So you'll notice now that this tile is a lot smaller than this tile. So imagine if you have more than 4 by 4. If you have more than 4 by 4, then the tiles that you'll be working with will just get smaller and smaller. So for the purposes of this demonstration, let's assume that instead of, let's say your room is 6 tiles here and 5 tiles over to the other side. So you'll just continue with the extensions. So I'll now go to this 4th tile. From this point to this middle segment, middle point, I'm going to extend that. We have our point right there. And I'm gonna bring that to the left vanishing point. We have that intersection right there. And I'm going to bring that to the other side so that we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to do one more. Yeah, I'm going to do 6. And here's 5. This part is already complete. We'll just add one more here. So this is the tile that we're gonna use for our extension over there, and we'll connect that now to our left vanishing point, and it's only until here because we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 and 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so again, if it's okay with you to populate the smaller, these thin tiles, then go right ahead. But if you think that those are too small for you to work with, then the advice is for you to relay out your room to fit a 4x4. So I'm just gonna fill this up with our actual tile. I'm just gonna darken those areas for you to see what's going on. Of course, in your case, your final tiles will be lighter so that you can easily erase the lines that you won't really need in the end. So I have those 1 2 3 4 5 6. Now I'm going to divide the 5 tiles along this way. And there you go. So now that we have the floor, we can now create the walls. To create the walls, we're going to be using our measurement for the height of the original cube, like what we mentioned a while ago. So just to recall, from the measuring point to that first corner, we marked this point over here on the ground line. We'll measure that. That's like 8 centimeters. Then we mark that here vertically on our center line, which is like there. So that's the height of our perfect cube. That's 1 unit. We're just going to extend that towards here, and from this corner of our room, we'll extend that and intersect that height. So this is now 1 unit at this distance. From this distance, your 1 unit is that high. So you can see the difference of that. 1 unit here, 1 unit here. As you recede to the horizon line, it gets smaller and smaller. Let's do that for the other side as well. So this is our 8 centimeters. We'll bring this now towards the back. So that's around here. Note that I'm not extending the projection all the way here because I don't need that. In that area, I just need the height here. So this is now our 1 unit on this side. Let's measure this as 28. So I'm just going to build the wall and make that 4 meters high. So 28, I'm going to make that 56. That's a times 2. And then I'm just going to add another 28. And one more 28. And it's around there. It's slightly off vertical. I'm just going to make a minor adjustment. Okay. So now we have our 4 unit high room or wall. Then we're going to use those to build the walls. So to build this wall, we'll be taking from our right vanishing point. So I just projected the lines towards the center because this is the corner. Oh, I'm sorry, the corner is right here because we have 6 units. Okay, so I'm just going to extend that, no problem there. Just going to extend that. So let's just make sure that this is totally vertical. And then I'm going to extend these towards that corner. Okay, so that's the corner of the room. And because we have these, we can now use that to extend. We'll create that opposite wall. So I'm just going to mark this vertical. And then we'll use these points to build that other wall. And then we'll segment these. This has 5. So I'm just going to bring these points upward. This is the first. This is the second. The third. This is the fourth. Okay, and we're going to do that for the same here. So the first is right there, so it's smack in the center line. The second, the third, it's the fourth, and now you have your walls. These are 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. You can, of course, continue to build the ceiling. So just to demonstrate that, for the ceiling, we'll be using, again, our vanishing points. For that, we'll be starting with these at the left vanishing point, going up. And that, then we're going for the other side. Okay, so now you have your floor, you have your left wall, you have your right wall, you have your ceiling. And from here, you can start to build your room. So I'm just going to erase a lot of these. So in your drawing pad, we assume that all of the lines that you made are relatively light so that you can erase them easily without totally eliminating them from your page. Okay, so I'm just gonna darken now so that you can see that final room. Okay, so this is your room. And now you can use your floor plan to start populating it. So I'm going to start off, let's say, let's make a bed. So I'm going to be placing a single bed in this space. So a single bed is usually one unit. I'm assuming now that my one unit is 1 meter. So this is 1 meter and this is going to be 3 meters. A bed is usually 1 meter for a single bed by 2 meters. So I'm just going to be placing my bed, assuming right here. So since in 2-point perspective, all vertical lines are vertical, I'm just going to build my basic block here. The height of my bed is going to be less than 1 meter. It's going to be around maybe 2/3 or maybe half of a meter. So if this is 1 meter, I'm going to go 1/2 vertically. And I'm going to extend that. So I now have one side of my block. Then I'm going to go for the other side using my right vanishing point. And then we'll build the top part. So now we have our block where this a 2 by 1 meter block, and this is where we can now build our bed. So let's say I want to place a headboard over here at the back side. I'm just gonna make that, okay, let's make that 1 meter high. A 1 meter high headboard. So if this is 1 meter, I'm going to project 1 meter over to the bed, the edge of the bed. This is 1 meter right now. And then towards the other side, we'll go across that. And from this corner, I'm going to bring that up. We'll thicken that up a bit. We'll make that thick vertically as well. And then I'm going to make a separation between the base and the mattress. So the mattress section, I'm going to have a division right there. That's the division. And then I'm going to be placing the base where that mattress is gonna be. And then I'm just going to seal this off at the bottom. Let's say that is just one board right there. And then maybe I could continue by adding some kind of support over here underneath. Or I could do a middle. I'm going to find the center of that side so that I know if that's the center, I can make another support post here. So if I darken that using my drawing pen, it might look something like this. So I'm just going to add some pillows. So the pillows are right there. I'm going to make this the headboard. And then I'm going to soften the mattress. Instead of having all these straight lines, I'm just going to just make them more organic, a little more bubbly or cloudy, so that it looks like a soft mattress. And then for the rest of the lines, I'm just going to make them straight because I assume they're made of wood, so they're pretty solid. And basically that's what the bed is going to look like in 2-point perspective.